Chairman of the Ohio Republican Party, Alex Triantafilou. Am I close this time?
It's Triantafilou, but very good, though. Very good.
Chairman Alex.
Absolutely. Good to be with you, Scott.
How to find you on Twitter at Chairman Alex. And if you're looking for him in Toledo today, it's not hard to find your bus.
Yeah, well, it's a pretty gigantic presence. The bus is a big red bus. It says vote no on issue 1, which is the message of the day for us, Scott. You know, we're traversing Ohio, telling Ohio's voters about why they should be a no on issue 1, and there are many reasons for that. So,
yeah, here's the problem I've got with this, Chairman Alex, is, and I don't think that there is anybody who likes gerrymandering. I don't like the way district maps, legislative maps, congressional maps in Ohio are drawn now. I don't think politicians should be the ones drawing maps. But this issue, this constitutional amendment, is full of crap. I mean, it's not a great solution to the problem of gerrymandering, and in fact, it codifies gerrymandering in many ways.
It does. So the people that are pushing issue 1 want to put partisan gerrymandering into our state constitution. One need only read the provisions of this amendment that they want to put in the Constitution, where it says that districts should be drawn proportionally. It references proportionality. That's a fancy word for saying that districts should be drawn with a particular partisan bent, which means that some districts will be drawn for Republicans, some districts will be drawn for Democrats. That is the definition, the very definition of gerrymandering. And if you don't believe me, one need only look at the Ohio Supreme Court that ruled, within the last several weeks, that they looked at the language and said it could reasonably be called gerrymandering, so they approved the ballot language that you will see, and that is that this will put gerrymandering in your state constitution here in Ohio. And for that reason, and for many other reasons, we're out against it.
All right, so the other problem I've got with this is that the 14 some odd members that would be appointed to the board are essentially appointed for life. There's no recourse to get them off the board unless the board wants them out, which we know how boards are. They're going to protect their own. And there's also no legal recourse as citizens of Ohio. If we don't like the maps, well, too bad.
This is fundamentally un-American, really. In America, we're used to having the ability to unelect or defeat at the ballot box people who we think are making bad public policy. Drawing the district boundaries is fundamental, and it's a part of the public governance of our country. And giving this to an unelected bureaucracy that's just simply not accountable to the people is not the right answer. It's the wrong answer. Again, really, this is being pushed by far-left special interest groups, and you may get there eventually, but this has nothing to do with stopping gerrymandering or good government. It has everything to do with helping one particular party win elections when they otherwise have not been able to win elections by and large in Ohio.
Yeah, but let me play devil's advocate on
Please.
this because, there's a lot of foreign money coming in. The guy from Switzerland who's spending millions of dollars to push issue 1. But and true, it's being fought and proposed by the minority party, the party that wants to have more power in the state. But if you look at it the other way, it's the party in power trying to keep power and hold power that's fighting issue 1. I mean, can you agree that the current system is bad?
Governor DeWine was eloquent on this topic when he called a press conference right out of the gate when this made the ballot. And he said, there are ways we can improve the system. Scott, here's what you ought to know. There's some history. Ohio voters went to the polls in 2015 and in 2018 and approved the current system. And that system was, at this point, a bipartisan agreement. 70% of Ohioans approved the system in 2015 and 2018. Could another fix be in the works? Look, I'm a Republican. I'm a conservative. I think all of government can be reformed in every aspect. We should do in government what we do in business, and that is to have continuing improvement. So, yes, sure, there could be improvements made to this. This has nothing to do with that. This is not an improvement to the system. It actually is a way, again, for Democrats to grow their very small number of people who represent us both in Washington and in Columbus. So, look, are we trying to protect our power here? There are still 5 Democrats elected from Ohio into the United States House of Representatives. The Democrats, Scott, and I've got to make this point, the Democrats have lost races in Ohio, and we are in power as Republicans because they have left the mainstream of American politics and Ohio politics. They no longer talk about the kitchen table issues that affect everyday Ohioans. And for that reason, they're losing election after election. They have gone way to the left. We all know this. We've watched it happen. They're not talking about, taxes, public safety. Most of them, they don't even really ultimately believe in the American dream anymore. They believe in a twisted dystopian America. So for that reason, they've just not been able to win elections. It used to be this was a purple state, and people should ask themselves why this is no longer a swing state, because the Democrats, again, have left the mainstream of American politics on issue after issue, and now they're trying with this backdoor maneuver to try to win more seats for Democrats. That's why we're fighting it.
Yeah, you can always also make the argument to the victors go the spoils. You want to change the maps, win some more elections. I mean, that's a valid argument as well. The biggest issue, looking at issue 1, is that it's like, what, a 30,000 word amendment to it almost doubles the state constitution size.
It does that. And, again, and I'm glad you asked about that. The United States Constitution that has served our country, for more than 2 centuries is 7,000 words, right? So this amendment by itself is almost 4 times longer than the United States Constitution. So it's a bunch of gobbledygook. It's been summarized on the ballot for you to look at. Again, I just urge citizens to read the ballot language. If you're sitting here wondering what it's all about and you're confused, simply read the language and you'll see this is an effort to gerrymander Ohio and put it in our Constitution and leave an unelected bureaucracy to draw these important lines. We can't have that, and we'll fight it. We're going to fight it, Scott, from now through Election Day and beyond if necessary.
Ohio Republican Party Chairman Alex here on the Scott Sands Show. Could you at least agree with me, though, that the districts are kind of screwed up the way they are now? I was trying to pull up on my phone some of the districts that I've looked at. I think there are Legislative District 15, 27. There are some districts that are joined by literally 2 miles of a thin layer of a creek. I mean, they're pretty screwed up districts, right?
With all respect, I'm not going to agree with you on that, and I'll tell you why. Because when you're drawing these maps, and I've never done this, but learned about this process.
Yeah, I'm no cartographer myself, but it seems like why don't we just group 4 or 5 counties together and call it a day?
Well, part of it is to keep certain communities together and to get the appropriate population distribution.
By certain communities, do you mean people of a certain political party?
No, I certainly do not. What I'm talking about really is keeping voting blocks and voting communities together as best you can.
Republican voting blocks.
Well, look, I'd like Republicans, and Republicans keep winning in Ohio for a particular reason. So, look, I think are the maps perfect? Nobody thinks they're perfect. They're never going to be perfect. It's a human process. But at the end of the day, these maps are far better. The other point I should make, since you're asking about the current maps, is the Democrats agreed to the current maps as they exist. They voted for these maps. After an arduous process a couple of years ago, we got bipartisan support for 10-year maps, as we say in this business, and that is these maps are in place for a period of a decade. And the Democrats in this state agreed with the current structure.
Is there any concern, too, Chairman Alex, that the demographics of the state of Ohio are changing one way or another to favor a party shift in the state? I mean, obviously, the last couple of elections, we've seen 2016, 2020 go +8 for Donald Trump, but then Sherrod Brown will go and win re-election in the same period of time. This year may be different. We hope it is. But is there a concern that maybe there might be a shift one way or another?
That's not something we think about. I can tell you, as a party leader, we just want to win elections with the field that exists in place now. So, and I'm glad you brought up Sherrod Brown winning elections. He's not going to win this time, but Bernie Moreno, by the way, is your candidate for that if you're tuned in today. But what you ought to know about that is Sherrod Brown winning is proof positive that just because a district happens to be drawn in a particular way, or if Ohio appears red, Sherrod has won. He's not going to win this time, but he has won in a quote, and I'm doing air quotes here on the radio, a red state. So this can happen. Ultimately, this ought to be the people deciding and not having these unelected bureaucrats drawing these lines artificially to plug Republicans and Democrats in. And Scott, I'll tell you one other thing. You know this, and I know this. Look, I'm a Republican, dyed-in-the-wool. Most of my friends are, but I have a lot of friends who are independents. Where do they fit into this new structure that the Democrats and their out-of-state special interest dollars want to bring into Ohio? I don't know where they fit in, because the only consideration they'll have in this new map drawing process is to make them proportionally Republican or Democrat. And if you're an independent, you get thrown out of this process.
Yeah, so here's the other problem I see in the issue 1 ballot measure on the November ballot is the confusion that's been created over what it means. If you look at the ballot language, I don't know how many people who are going to go into a voting booth or sit at home with an absentee ballot and read through all of that. Issue 1 for it is anti-gerrymandering. If you're against issue 1, you're against gerrymandering. There's a little bit of confusion in the advertising, the marketing, and the political push from either side as to what this is all about that could work for or against issue 1.
Well, look, if you're confused, you should vote no. So it's easy from our perspective. But the reason you should be confused is because, as you've already indicated, a 30,000-word amendment to the state constitution that could double its size. Again, this is what these outside groups want to do. They want to dump all this language into our state constitution. And, ultimately the lawyers would be fighting it out if this thing were to pass. It's not going to. Ohioans are smarter than this at the end of the day. But, it's why we're on a bus, God. That's why I'm here. We pulled up today in this gigantic bus.
A very subtle bus. If you happen to be downtown, I apologize. St. Clair is impassable for the next few minutes. Downtown Ennsville. ORP Chairman Alex here on the Scott Sands Show. As party chair, are you concerned about what happens if issue 1 does pass and what that may say from the electorate? I mean, I think Republicans may have been surprised that issues 1 and 2 last election both passed.
Mm-hmm. I'm a guy who focuses on trying to win the election. I was a county chairman for a long time, active in the political process. We'll deal with what we deal with the day after the election. Right now, though, I'm not going to speculate about any of that. We're just going to stay focused. This is bad policy for Ohio, Scott. We're going to push forward against this. If something occurs and we disagree with the voters' finding, we'll respect that, but we're also going to keep talking to the voters of Ohio in a variety of different ways to make sure that citizens are treated fairly and we don't have gerrymandering in our state constitution. So we're going to stay on the no message, and we'll deal with the aftermath of the election on multiple fronts after that. And I suspect we're going to be celebrating a lot of wins on Election Day here in Ohio.
Got this question then on our talkback microphone.
Yeah, Scott, quick question. Is Ohio a Republican state because of gerrymandering?
I think he's talking mainly about, I guess, the state legislature, perhaps.
Yeah, again, the boundaries of the state of Ohio are not gerrymandered. It's one of the 50 United States here. So the answer is no. Ohio is a Republican state because the Democrats have left the mainstream of American politics on issue after issue. I don't know about you. I pay very close attention. I have yet to hear a solution coming from the Democratic Party on the issue of inflation. Just take one issue. Donald Trump tells you, drill, baby, drill. I will drive down the cost of energy. By driving down the cost of energy and diesel fuel, it will be cheaper to transport goods and services, and your prices will come down. You may or may not like the policy, but Donald Trump is offering you a policy prescription. Kamala Harris has offered nothing by way of an understandable prescription. This happens all the time. All the Democrats have become really is an anti-Donald Trump party. They talk about him. They talk about his personality. They never talk about his policies because they worked for 4 years. So what's happened in Ohio, the reason this is a red state, the reason Republicans have had success is because the Democrats have walked away from the fundamental kitchen table issues that drive the electorate.
All right, I know you're here to talk issue 1. Can we talk about a couple other elections?
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to take a quick break. And again, it's pretty obvious why you're here. There's a big red bus parked out front in Hinsville. Vote no on issue 1. It's the Scott Sands Show.